Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? Happy 4th of July. My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome back to 3 Buck Theater. This is the Uncultured Swine episode number 2. And today we're going to be talking about a movie that I think is fitting for today. I think it's fitting for the day that it is, that we celebrate the 1 out of 10 terrible reviews for one of my all-time favorite absolute guilty pleasure movies. And of course, I'm talking about 1996's Independence Day. That's right, guys. 1996's Independence Day, written by Dean Devlin, directed by Roland Emmerich. Those two have worked together multiple times. You know it through its disaster porn approach to life, and it speaks to my heart. I enjoy this movie, and you know what? So do a lot of other people, because according to IMDB, it's currently sitting at a 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's right. On IMDb, this movie is rocking an absolute 7 out of 10. And who would have thought that this movie would get a 7 out of 10 on IMDb? It just goes to show you, people like a good disaster flick. But not everybody, as we're going to be looking at here with the 1 out of 10 reviews. Some of these I had to cut out because they were written like a damn novel. They were written like a novel. They tore the movie apart, but I picked some choice ones that we can laugh at and enjoy. So this one here says, Roland Emmerich makes Paul W.S. Anderson look like Andrei Tarkovsky, which is a very succinct way of saying Roland Emmerich is really terrible in this person's eyes. Now, he says, if Ed Wood ever had any money, Roland Emmerich would give him a run for it. This film is the ultimate summary of everything wrong in Hollywood. It's as if Roland Emmerich deliberately tries to place every single cliche, if I could read correctly, he can find in his films. And another reviewer said, he's one of the few directors in Hollywood, along with Michael Bay and Paul W.S. Anderson, who have everything they need to make a decent blockbuster, a great cast with Jeff Goldblum, decent effects, and enough money at their disposal to feed Africa for a month. Yeah, but there's a lot more that goes into it than just the director. This guy doesn't know how movies are made, but that's okay. That's okay. It's his opinion. He clearly has a very strong one, so let's find out more. Saying, okay, now the film. Horrible. No redeeming qualities to speak of. If 6-year-olds were capable of having wet dreams, this would be it. Here's the entire film. Aliens arrive. Aliens attack. Will Smith's girlfriend, child, and dog escape a massive fire blast that kills hundreds of people in a subway. But the dog made it. Thank God. That must be the most cringeworthy cliche ever committed to film. There's actually the most popular screenwriting book is one called Save the Cat. There's a reason why people want animals to live in movies. It makes them think things are safe. Anyway, a wooden door protects them from the nuclear heat blast. Will Smith beats up an alien and drags it around the desert for a bit. I'm not sure who was in more pain during that scene, me or the alien. They go to Area 51, where they meet some hermit chronic masturbator mad scientist, and some other stuff happens. Then the president of the United States gets up in a jet with all the rest of the boys to take out the alien ship, threatening the American way of life. Yeehaw. All of those things are pretty accurate, actually, yeah. Now he finishes up here by saying, the people who have a hard-on for this movie will tell me that I took it too seriously. But it's actually impossible to take this film seriously. It's like a bad joke. So bad that it's funny how horrible it is. And then you pause and think about it, and all of a sudden you realize how troubling it is that something like this was ever greenlighted by a major studio. If you haven't seen it, don't. If you have seen it and were as troubled as I was, you're not alone. If you saw this film and enjoyed it, you probably laugh your ass off whenever you fart in a bathtub. Well, sir, and a lot of other people, 7 out of 10 on IMDb, we like to laugh at our farts in bathtubs. If you agree with me, let me know in the comment section. But okay, this guy didn't like it. Let's find out another one here. All right, the president flies a fighter plane at an alien spaceship. 1 out of 10. Saying, if an alternate title had been chosen, I would have avoided the loss of 2 hours of my life and had an extra $9 in my pocket. If you set aside the fact that the aliens in this movie use Macintosh-based computer systems, the Prez hops in a fighter jet as the pilot. And Will Smith punches an alien unconscious in his downed spaceship. This movie is still horrible. The aliens come to Earth to sap it of its resources, and to accomplish this, of course, the aliens have to destroy Earth's inhabitants. The enormous spaceships gather above major cities around the globe, wait there, doing nothing for days, and then they start to blow stuff up we recognize. Not military targets, just useless tourist attractions that will all make us sad. Does blowing up the White House really accomplish anything? Does it terrify Earth's inhabitants? The giant spaceships do that just fine. How about attacking military installations capable of fighting back? They can't be stopped. Or can they? What's next? Not Six Flags over Nebraska. What is that? What is that? Not Six Flags over Nebraska? All right. Maybe that's a phrase in Nebraska? I don't know. I'm a West Coast kid. Now the solution to Earth's dilemmas lie in Apple's corporation's operating system for home-based computing. Simply walk into an Apple store, grab a PowerBook, fly into the enemy spaceship. How, you ask? Naturally, by piloting one of their spacecraft 200 years ahead of Earth technology on your first try. Mess with their hard drives using an Earth laptop computer. I'm not kidding. And whammo, aliens start dropping like flies. Not an ounce of creativity or originality or brain power was used in writing this drivel. I enjoyed the stereotypical characters brought together to the fight: the drunken former pilot, the hotshot young stud pilot, the computer geek, the kid, and the most powerful man we got, the President of the United States. Yeah, baby. It plays like a 10-year-old's idea of a really cool thing that happened once. Horrible. Don't see. First off, I love the fact here that he criticizes that Bill Pullman's character is a fighter jet pilot. When we first get introduced to his character in the movie, we find out that he was a fighter jet pilot. They were establishing that whole thing in the beginning of the movie. He seems to remember a lot about this movie and a lot about how they stopped the aliens, but small, minute plot details that advance character story arcs later on in the film apparently went right over his head. He was focusing way too much on the dog, apparently. Oh my God. I love how he's like, aliens come to Earth to take our resources. What's that all about, bro? It's that's kind of a thing, man. That's kind of a real thing. Even Stephen Hawking has said if an alien species came to Earth, the likelihood of them being friendly is minimal. They'd be very hostile. And that's obviously, this is like a big budget summer blockbuster spectacle take on the old 1950s alien invasion films that really propped up during the Cold War. Come on, dude. Oh, this guy. Okay, let's move on. 1 out of 10. Why is this movie so popular? Saying this movie was poorly thought out with such a talented cast, it's as shame that this movie turned out to be the gigantic pile of poop that it did. Some of the viewpoints irked me. That were an issue was a first lady. We find out she died in the initial alien attack. Sad, huh? Well, later we find out she's still alive. Yippee! Then she later dies. I didn't care at that point. But how many other times does it happen in movies? You think someone's dead, they're not dead, they're actually alive, but they're mortally injured, and then they do pass away. Her whole arc in the movie was, if I recall, was really to kind of showcase to Vivica A. Fox that you can do more with your life than being a stripper. Because there's that whole conversation oh, I'm a dancer. Oh, what kind of dancing? Ballet, blah, blah, blah. She's all exotic. And she's like, I ain't judging, sister. I ain't judging, sister. You do your thing. Now, I love this here. I consider myself a proud American, but sometimes waving the banner is just tacky. During the final showdown, the rest of the countries on the planet on Earth were waiting for the Americans to start attacking the aliens before they moved, even going as far as to illustrate the point of having a foreign commander literally sitting on his rump and jumping up to scramble for an attack once the U.S. says it's a go. What kind of self-serving patriotism crap is that? Did the guy not pay attention? All the other countries around the world were waiting to see whether or not our cockamamie harebrained plan of flying Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith with a virus-laden MacBook into an alien mothership was going to have an impact on the rest of the ships that were over the major cities. That was the whole point of going in there. They were waiting for us to say it's go time, and then they all scrambled so they don't waste valuable resources trying to lead a fruitless attack against a technologically superior race, species, whatever you want to call it. Okay, like that's pretty much self-explanatory. Never mind the fact it's actually in the movie. But this guy didn't get that. He got blinded by the patriotism. I mean, he must really hate Michael Bay. Now, he does say there were some highlights, like Brent Spiner's quirky scientist. True. Randy Quaid's cousin Eddie in a plane. And the excellent work that the talented ensemble cast did in vain to save the movie. Okay. He says, I'm thoroughly surprised that this movie stuck to the film. And for my money, I would just as soon watch an Apple Brown. Well, hopefully you didn't go see Independence Day Resurgence. I did, and I actually kind of liked it. All right, let's find out this one here. 1 out of 10, the worst lump of bilge trash ever thrown at the cinema. The brilliance of ID4? Well, I guess it's a genius to a certain degree to progressively stack the higher crap that's higher as the film goes on. It did take some kind of planning for a film to start off as an entertaining concept and then get progressively stupider, much like this whole particular Uncultured Swine series. And more moronic as you go. Pathetic one-liners, terrible performances, actors clearly embarrassed to be there. Yeah, no, they're talking about me recording this, aren't they? When you've got Jeff Goldblum embarrassed, you've accomplished something with this career. Bill Pullman, non-actor. Really? Non-actor? As president of the United States? I don't know, man. He delivered that speech. Here it is 24 years later, and that speech is still rocking. All right? It's still rocking. This is our Independence Day speech. Still gets people fired up on Independence Day. So I think that is not fair. But he's the president of the U.S. with this goofy, no eye contact, sheepish, wimp performance donning a flight jacket. Randy Quaid doing the worst heroic death in the history of cinema. I don't know, man, that remember me and then taking him out. That was pretty dope. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Will Smith searching for and finding his wife, apparently the only survivor of her entire city. What a lucky coincidence. It's a movie, kid. Look at movie logic. Just return that copter when you're done with it. Will, it's not like we need it in the midst of fighting an Interstellar. I love the petty nitpicking. I really do. I love the petty nitpicking on all of these so far. It's just the little things. They're just, they harp on the little things. Now, this one should be pretty good. Now, to give you an idea of what kind of slack-jawed Neanderthal moron preschool lobotomized chimps like this movie. In the theater I was in, there's a scene where a wave of fire is engulfing a tunnel. People are dying by the thousands. There's a dog who somehow figures ridiculously in all of this. The dog makes it to the maintenance exit in the nick of time to be spared. The entire audience oohed and awed like they were watching the Wonder Years. Who cares if throngs of people have been reduced to charcoal briquettes just so the cute little puppy dog makes it? Yeah. Obviously. I mean, and for one, people were fleeing the city. I forget. I think it was LA. Might have been New York. They're fleeing the city. People are going to have animals. They're not going to leave their, like, you can tell this guy clearly is a sociopath. I'm going to call it right now. This Uncultured Swine is a sociopath who's probably hurt animals. I'm making that bold proclamation in jest, but still making it. He says here, finally, this is one of the worst movies ever made. And when you compare the stupidity proportionate to the amount of money spent, it's the worst movie ever. It really isn't, but everyone's entitled to an opinion. All right, yeah. Here's one. You can love to hate it. There comes a paradox with movies as bad as these. They're like a bad car accident. You wince at seeing carnage and realize the tragedy of the situation, but you just have to take in the entirety of it. You are compelled to observe. It proves too difficult to look away. This movie is awful. There's no getting around it. I was compelled to sit through the entire movie, transfixed in horror at how terrible it was. Worse, years later, I was compelled to watch it again, knowing precisely how awful it was the first time around. It didn't get any better with the second viewing. The only artful thing about this movie is how they managed to appeal to the primitive portion of our brains that revels in inane stupidity. The sad thing is, I somehow doubt that was their intent. Awful, awful, awful. How awful? You have to see it, really. Which is the paradox. He's got a point. I highly recommend this movie because you have to see how awful it is. So awful, you want to watch it again. Actually, I'll be fair. That is probably the best way to finish that segment. Like, that is probably the best way to describe this movie. It's so awful, you'll want to watch it again, 100%. All right. This one here, 1 out of 10 at first, and sadly not the last. ID4, the first in a series of ultra-modern Hollywood eye candy garbage films that actually lack scripts. This film was conceived as a series of explosions, spaceships, alien, macho action sequences, and one-liners that are loosely connected by inane, brainless drivel to form a semblance of a connected whole. For the majority of film goers, it works because audiences don't like to think. That is actually quite true. They like to stare mindlessly at the purdy pictures while riding the dopamine high. But the special effects were excellent crowd loved this one, as the I don't like to think during a movie, I like to be entertained bunch. For anyone who does like to think and respects science fiction as a genre capable of dealing with interesting and meaningful themes, avoid at all costs. For everyone else, it has great special effects, pant, drool, 1 out of 10. This guy strikes me as someone who's insanely fun at parties. He says sarcastically. That's how it comes across to me. This is the kind of guy that feels like, once you get sucked into a conversation with him, he's going to eventually find a way to turn it into like Kubrick. And then he's going to be like, have you seen Eyes Wide Shut and the magnificent nature of that movie? And you're going to be like, no, dude, outside of the orgy scene, I didn't care. And he's like, you're missing the nuance and the filmmaking prowess of Kubrick in his last full feature that he ever did. It is an amazing movie, a byproduct of its time. And you, sir, are uncultured swine for not liking it. He might actually like this kind of program. But anyway, it says here, most definitely the worst film of all time. This is the type of tripe a 9-year-old schoolboy might dream of while playing with his Power Rangers. And I have to stop right there. What's wrong with that, man? Who doesn't like playing with your Power Rangers? Who doesn't like having a good time? The plot is paper thin with cheesy acting and dialogue. The defeat of the aliens is laughable also. Remember War of the Worlds back in 1950, right? When they did that radio play, or they did the movie originally. What killed the aliens when they got to Earth? What killed them in 2005? A common cold, because they weren't able to process it. This is literally the common cold. It's a virus from a MacBook. Anyway, I basically sat down really looking forward to this film, as I have been a big sci-fi fan all my life, and films of this type were thin on the ground, unfortunately, even though I've read hundreds of brilliant sci-fi novels that would make great films. Though this would be, someone thought this would be a better choice. Though it can have originated from a book, not a novel at least, perhaps a comic. Well, I forget when this one was written, but you can tell it's definitely before 2008. Saying this is Hollywood moguls at their worst, a few big names with special effects overload to make up for any depth. Do you not watch summer blockbusters, man? That's like the vast freaking majority of them. Saying here, come on, boys, there's plenty of good books just waiting to be turned into screenplays. There have been quite a few attempts recently. Give us public some credence of intelligence, please. I'll be honest with you. He's got a point there. But the problem, though, especially with something like Independence Day Resurgence, is you got to speak to the translation to the international audience. And that means dumbing it down. Not that those audiences aren't smart, but it just means like trying to translate it into other languages proves to be kind of difficult. Anyway, the worst movie ever to scam viewers, 1 out of 10. Recitation, -1. Character, -1. Director, -10. Plot, -4. Contents, -15. Interpretation, -20. Suspense, -20. Realisms, reactions, -100. Actors, -50. Stupidity, +100. This guy plays a lot of D&D. This reminds me of the guy from Make Love Not Warcraft. You know who I'm talking about? That dude sitting back like with the Doritos on the shirt. That's what this guy reminds me of. But let's see what Mr. Dorito shirt here has to say. The worst movie ever made. So stupid, illogical, mediocre, poor, senseless that it makes simple cartoon the best thing to see as a substitute. I saw it to make a favor to my friend. I ever regret to make this mistake. So great today that I must yet regret it. I only remember that people in the cinema after 10 minutes of this movie laughed because of the high stupidity of it. He says while he tipped his fedora and sipped his latte from a Starbucks. This movie is only a scam against the public which circumvents by the ignorance besides taking advantage of naive people. I don't think English is his first language, from being fair. The power of marketing. So I've decided to never see any movie of this director. Once I can be circumvented, twice no. I'm not stupid like director and Hollywood managers. They can have money. I've my estimate. That's all. I've my estimate. Okay. Here we go. These are some short ones here. One of the worst sci-fi action movies of all time. Absolutely pathetic film. I can't believe this movie not only turned a profit, but also had some inane people actually cheering and clapping. This movie is filled with blatant in-your-face flaws, inconsistencies, and laughably unrealistic scenes and events. Yeah, dude, we flew a freaking spaceship into a alien mothership and uploaded a Mac virus in order to take out the entire fleet so we could bring it down. Totally not made up 1950s-esque science fiction. Just saying. I'm just going to put that, totally not that. Anyone who's ever passed preschool intro science or has even the slightest knowledge of physics, computers, or military tactics will immediately recognize the holes peppered throughout the sadly impossible script and story. Yeah, man. Like preschool intro science. Like, I think I know you're trying to be cheeky, but I think you're also being like trying to be legit. Like, you think that's a good burn. It's too bad America is so pathetically educated that people actually bought into this trash. I guess Hollywood has managed to pull the wool over people's eyes once again and empty their wallets at the same time. Oh my God. It's a summer action movie, dude. Like, I have to reiterate that point. This one down here says 1 out of 10. Very bad. It's direct. I can appreciate that. Saying here, this is the worst film ever made. History is completely stupid and it makes mistakes full. Physics and CS laws are completely forgotten. For example, aliens are mainly destructed by means of a computer virus. Think at that. They have technology to travel faster than light, but they have no antivirus. What did I just say, though, about War of the Worlds, man? Common cold killed the aliens. Their immune system wasn't able to take the bacteria on this planet. That is actually a feasible thing, right? But those people, they don't. Again, they're like, they think it's like, it's like taking on Smaug in Lord of the Rings or in The Hobbit. It's got that one little missing piece piece of his armor. You got to find it and exploit it, and that's what they did. Here we go. All right, in this movie, 1 out of 10. The United States are the center of the world. Well, yeah, dude, like pretty much any movie, the United States is the center of the world. Let's just get this through. I mean, it's Hollywood. It's based out of California. What do you expect? There are several things about this movie that few Americans don't mention or even notice. Forget the horrible acting, the stupid plot. These are things that are at least enjoyable. My point is that the United States of America, it's a country located in a world. That world contains a lot more countries. It might be fun for an American to see all their most important buildings blown up and to see their president saving all the helpless rest of mankind. But for the people not living there, it's a little, well, very boring. It's a thing I wanted to take off my chest. If you want to debate my point, go ahead. I'm available. And you can just see him going like this and cracking his knuckles like, I'm available. This, by the way, was written in 2002. 18 years too late, homie. I don't know who you are. Sorry, bro. Here's the one. 1 out of 10, waste of time. This movie is the worst movie I've ever seen. The acting is poor. The directing is bad. The plot is very, very, very unbelievable. And the whole movie is plastered with stereotypes and U.S. patriotism. Yeah, it's called 4th of July, ID4. It's like an American, holiday that's like nothing but American patriotism. I mean, Christ, my child was in like an American flag t-shirt today. You know what I mean? Like, America, F yeah, right? Like, what's up with this? Anyway, if you have not seen this movie, let it be. Spend your money on something else or throw them out the window. In that way, you will not waste your time. Rating 1 out of 10. I would give it a negative number if I could. Bet he does the same thing for Tinder dates. And finally, this is the last one, but there's a reason why I wanted this to be the last one. Independence Day is really dumb, stupid, and pointless. I love people who get so upset over this. Some of this is probably a bit of kayfabe, but at the same time, they get pretty upset. I had completely forgotten about the awful mess known as Independence Day until I saw Men in Black 2, and I remembered that Will Smith also starred in this film. Watching parts of it again on the FX cable channel confirmed my earlier opinions of this film. Roland Emmerich is a terrible director, Stargate, Godzilla, and the goofy Mel Gibson film The Patriot among his credits, but none are truly as bad as Independence Day was. Okay, first off, Godzilla is way worse than ID4. 2, Stargate is the shit. Fight me on that one. That movie is great. The subsequent TV shows that have followed are also been great. Stargate is a very untapped and amazing property that needs more things with it. And also, The Patriot with Mel Gibson, F you, that movie's great. I don't care what you say, all right? Jason Isaacs, total badass, smoldering looks all the way through. And the dude gets his head taken off with a cannonball. All right? Pull your head out your panties, all I'm trying to say. This film rips off those cheesy Ed Wood science fiction films so badly, I had to leave the theater before it ended. Then you missed all the good stuff, dude. You missed the one line. You probably missed the speech from Bill Pullman. Goofy special effects and some of the worst banter ever written. Can you believe it won an Oscar for special effects even over the terrific work done by ILM on Twister? Well, to quote Twister, 20th Century Fox was in it for the money, not the science, to be fair. But, I will say he's got a point there. The effects work by ILM on Twister was quite good. But when you're going up against the White House being destroyed, the Empire State Building being destroyed, the Capitol Records building in LA being destroyed, which, by the way, every time I drove by that building when I lived in LA, I kept thinking about that scene where they all got taken out. And you know damn well what you're in for. It's a fun movie. It doesn't deserve these 1 out of 10 reviews, and most of the time these reviews are just lazy. The story is bad. Yeah, no duh. It's a stupid summer blockbuster film from 24 years ago. You're not going to get Hamlet in the park. You're going to get Will Smith punching an alien saying, "Welcome to Earth." You're going to get Area 51. You're going to get Brent Spiner as a weird Area 51 scientist. You're going to get Bill Pullman giving one of the best speeches on screen of all time. And then you're going to get some fun special effects and Houston gets nuked. Not all that bad. Not all that bad. At the end of the day, it's a fine movie. It's a fun movie. It's a good movie. It's a fun film to enjoy. It's a fun film to get into. And as always, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. I want to hear you guys' opinions on this one. And I want to hear what movie you want me to look at next. My name is Matt Jarbo. This has been Uncultured Swine, episode number 2, Independence Day on Independence Day. Have a great one, everyone. And please, don't write these terrible reviews because I'm going to make fun of them. And we're all going to laugh at you. All right, I'll see you.